guys? Welcome to Mosh Vets. I'm Dave, and this is Justin.
What
and
up?
we're joined with Robert Goodspeed.
What's up?
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in the music industry?
Sure, yeah. So I first started just as a guitarist who didn't really know how to make friends in high school and everything, so I gravitated to the music scene and I gravitated towards making bands. And throughout doing that, met some people along the way, started a bunch of various bands throughout high school, and that were like largely like punk metal influenced and whatnot. And from there, you start kind of wondering where your band's going to play. And so you start kind of reaching out to different places around town where you see your friends' bands playing, and you say, I want to play there. And you start booking your own bands. And in order to do your own bands, you have to get other bands on the bill, because no one wants to see your band play for 20 minutes and then leave. They want to see, like, you know, they want to maybe feel like their dollar's worth a little bit more than that. And so in doing that and booking my own band, I started doing favors for other bands around the area, trying to get them involved on the show, because I knew that they'd bring people out and that our bands would bring people out, and we'd have like a big stamp on the music scene and everything like that. And so throughout doing that and many years of doing that and consuming my time, it's kind of more taken the back seat of like being in a band itself, and been more, now I am just a person that helps bands get shows and bands tour to come to Pensacola. And in doing all of this, I ended up booking at the Handlebar for years and other various places around town, Sluggos, American Legion, Live Juice Bar, The Break, a bunch of other places. And then when the Handlebar closed down, there was a big, gap in the music scene. So I opened a really small 75 cap nonprofit called Night Moves, which was
that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, which was just devoted to being a community space for musicians and artists, and creating music and community together. And so once that happened, the pandemic shut me down. And I was kind of working on something in the interim. I wanted to bring the nonprofit to a different place downtown Pensacola. I noticed that it wasn't very central, so people didn't like that. It wasn't very big, so people didn't like that. It didn't have beer, so people didn't like that. I take criticism pretty well, like to the point where I don't let denial or shame like that like hold me down. I like to learn from it and actually grow and turn it into something that everyone actually wants to see. And so, hearing all that feedback, I decided that I wanted to bring Night Moves downtown to a bigger place. And I heard that the Handlebar was bought and was sat on for about half a year. And I'm like, well, if they're sitting on it, they want to do something with it. So I don't know like what exactly they plan to do, but I'm going to just go for it. I got the owner's phone number through a friend, and I shot them a text just being like, hey, I'd love to meet you and tell you about what I'm doing with Night Moves and why the Handlebar is important to me. And on New Year's Day, we met up and we talked about it, and we kept in contact. And through the pandemic, there was no traction on when Night Moves would return or what they would do with the Handlebar. And as life started to kind of feel normal again, we kept in contact, and we're like, do you guys really want to do this? And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, we worked together, and I think Night Moves as the entity, as the brick and mortar is no more, but I think as the entity and the philosophy still exists within the walls of this, right? It's like we preach here, community and cohesion among the music scene, and that's what we're doing here at the Handlebar. And just it doesn't feel like work sometimes. It feels pretty awesome, and I can't believe sometimes that I'm part of this. So
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was pretty long-winded. I'm sorry. I just didn't
No,
know
you're
exactly
good.
No, it's interesting.
I didn't know where to
me.
start and stop. It just felt like from the beginning to there was probably the best way to go.
No,
So
that's cool.
When did you start booking shows at the the Legion? Were you around the like 2010s time frame? Or?
So I guess for the Legion itself, I wasn't a huge role in booking stuff there early. I didn't really start doing stuff there until probably when there was a gap between Night Moves and the Handlebar being open. But I knew all the people that were doing that then.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I would be what you would call a runner or the promo, whatever. So they would give me free tickets if I brought 5 or 6 of my friends over and passed out flyers at school. And they knew that, like, basically if I was there, other people would probably also go and whatnot, because, you know, we had our bands and followings and whatnot back then. So in the 2010, I think I want to say 6 was the first time that I knew of a show being really booked there.
Yeah.
My friend Michael Silver booked the Ataris there, and that was like kind of our first like introduction to this whole thing. I was just like, man, you were booking local bands at a venue in University Mall. It was just like at 9 o'clock, the mall shut down, and then they just opened the doors, and like we would all go in, and I had a hard like 11 o'clock curfew, so I only got to see like 1 or 2 bands at a time. So that was like my intro to the music scene, and I knew that he was booking that kind of stuff. So I said, hey man, the Ataris are nearby. You should like look into booking them, and he did, and it worked out, and that was his introduction to it. And so throughout the way, like, I would kind of send him stuff like that to do, and then he kind of took it by the reins and did a lot of stuff through that. And like I said, I was kind of more or less just his runner. Like, you know, every now and then there'd be, I think Unearth one time said he needed someone to take them to the gym, and then so that he could shower, because it was like a free place to gym and shower at the same time. So I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. Yeah. And so I'd like brought him there, and like that was my whole job for the day, but it got me into the show for free. And so if you think about it, I was probably his slave for 6 hours, and I saved $12 on a ticket. So like,
yeah, you do the math.
Yeah. So I don't know if I necessarily made out on top for that kind of thing or for any of that, but I think that's what kind of got me going. It's like I did a lot of stuff like pro bono, like for years. Like Night Moves was a nonprofit. I didn't make money off of it. I in fact leveraged my own paycheck to keep it open, because I felt like what we were trying to do was give back to music, because like I said, I didn't have I was really introverted in high school, and I didn't make a lot of friends. So the only thing that I really had was music. And that's what kind of kept me going through everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you did everything here in Florida? Like
Mostly
all around Pensacola?
Yeah. I booked a handful of shows in Mobile and Tallahassee and Panama City, but for the most part, it's all been, here.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Did you have a question? You were about to say something. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I was just remembered like some of those shows, like I went and saw After the Burial there, and like Motionless in White.
Yep.
Who's the dude who tried to marry or murder his fucking wife?
As I Lay Dying.
As I Lay Dying, I saw there and stuff. I was wondering if you had anything to do with any of that.
No, unfortunately not. Yeah, those were different people before me. Bury Your Dead and Bring Me the Horizon played there. Like, Bring Me the Horizon opened for Bury Your Dead, so that's a pretty crazy concept.
Yeah.
And then, like...
that's how you know you're an OG.
Yeah, I mean, there was,
I've
like...
been around since then.
There was a lot of shows like that, like, way back in the day.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
It was one of those moments of, like, I just remember going there, it's like, you know how you see the things on Facebook and everything? It's like, oh man, I wish I was there when this was happening.
Yeah.
Like they'll show My Chemical Romance playing at
exactly,
like and they're like, oh, I wish
like
I was
VFW,
there, and
which it truly was. Right.
I felt like I was there at that like height of like genty metalcore birth thing.
Yeah.
And that was so cool being over there.
It's happening now, like what? Yeah. That's the thing. Like we didn't know how lucky we were until we got older and saw those bands.
You're like, wait a minute, these bands are now playing vinyl. These bands are now playing the Bass Center.
Yeah,
right? And so
and like, selling it out.
Yeah,
like,
I saw one of the first shows I saw at the Legion before the Ataris. I just went. I don't know why I went. Like I just happened to go to a show there, and it was 4 local bands, and A Day to Remember played, and this was I probably got dropped off by my mom, so it's like 2005, 2004, something like that, and there was, like it was totally mixed bill, everything, like pop punk, indie, and then A Day to Remember is playing like these, like, you know, like at first time I see hardcore dancing, I'm just like, oh, what the fuck is this, dude? Like I'm just like watching it, and like people are just like whooping each other's asses, and I'm just like this like little kid like standing on a chair in the back, just like, what's going on here? And then so like follow them for a little bit. Eventually, you know, they play the Red Door, which is, I don't know, 400, 500 cap. They play American Legion a couple years later, and there's so many people there that I can't even fathom how they fit that many to this day. There was like, so you see those type of things, and those are really why we book and do stuff like that here, because you like to see that, you know, a band starting from a room like this and then going to like the next level. You know, you get a little bit of bragging rights, being like, we're part of this band, and like watch this band and in this room. Were you around then? No. Okay. Well, maybe the band that's playing here tonight or any other night are going to be the next ones that do that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I remember seeing a lot of bands and playing with, like, I played with Fit for an Autopsy here back when it was the old Handlebar. Saw After the Burial again here, Texas in July. Like a bunch of different bands came through here that just, like, I'm so glad you reopened this place, because it, like, especially for musicians and people who love going to shows, this place meant something.
Right.
And you have done a miraculous this place. I'm going to put some stuff in there later so you guys can see this whole place now, and it's completely different. It's the same but way different.
Yeah.
Like if you were here before, you get it, but if you're seeing it now, this place is dynamite.
Yeah.
It's so awesome in here. But like, I think it was just important for you to reopen this thing.
Yeah.
And get the music community back in here. And I was looking at your sign, and it says the Handlebar Be Somebody. Perfect slogan to put underneath the name of the, like, you're doing phenomenal shit here.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that you've done all this, and you put your hard, you know, sweat and tears, blood, sweat, and tears into this bad boy. You know what I mean? Like, this is pretty fucking dope.
It's
dude.
cool to be like excited about something like this, you know, too. Like in like with the podcast, we're like really excited about, you know, investing our time and our own money and stuff like that, because we know what it can be.
Sure.
Like being a part of something like this, I'm sure, like you said, you're like very excited about it.
Yeah, it's all like,
doesn't feel like work.
It's all like grassroots. You know, you watch it just grow from an idea, and you have to be really involved with it up front to like start to see like everything blossom as a result of that. And, you know, like with the Handlebar, I think in the past there was so much that I loved about it and hated about it. I mean, truthfully, it's like there were
the stage.
There were so many times where you know, we would be here and we'd be playing to each other because everyone was just like, you know, like, I really just don't feel like my clothes smelling like cigarettes afterwards. I really just don't want to go to the bathroom and feel like I'm gonna contract like a disease.
You need a tetanus shot to go in there.
Like, and so, you know, the selection was pretty terrible as far as drinks goes. I mean, it was just beer, and it was just resold beer from the gas station, right? And so there's like levels to where you just take that type of thing and you say the Handlebar at the heart was everything you want from a music scene. It didn't matter if it was your first show. It didn't matter if you were the singer of the Strokes and you wanted to play a secret show. It didn't matter if you had a huge following or no following, and they would book you here, and they would try to put you together like the right type of lineup to make you succeed. And even if they didn't do it, you still walked out of here with like the memories of like feeling included. And I think that was the most important thing to keep, and why we kept the name, because we're like, we want people to still feel that way, but we don't want them to feel gross while they're here. And so like if there is a negative connotation because of that, then so be it. But at the end of the day, like, I think that what we're doing is music community minded and focused.
I don't remember there being any kind of negative backlash when you may have felt something different.
Yeah.
But like, I remember you and like the announcement getting out about here, and it was like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
fuck yeah, they brought it back.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know this venue
and
existed because I'm from up north.
like,
so
dude, this needed to come back.
Yeah,
like this is the vinyl is awesome too, and I fucking love that place too. But this is like the grassroots hometown.
Yeah,
like everybody's had a lot of experiences.
It's
here.
like a stepping stone to your way
exactly.
to the bigger.
We just
stuff.
needed this. It's like what I'm trying to do with like downtown and bring like. There needs to be a hometown place that if you're a 17-year-old kid.
Yep.
That eventually I get my shit straight. I get 30 minutes of music.
Yep.
I can get on
Perfect.
stage as
Exactly.
long as I don't sound like absolute dog shit.
Even
even sometimes when you do, we'll
it's
find
like we'll learn.
Something for everyone. But
I mean,
something to aspire to get to the next level, and the next level. And this is one of those, like I say, like an iconic spot for Pensacola is this place.
I've seen it since we've opened. I mean, once you kind of have a hub, it inspires creativity because you see your friends up there and you're like, you know what, I play guitar, or I used to play.
Absolutely.
Like, let me start something up again. Micah, who plays in Glistener now, him and all those guys were in different bands throughout the years, and he was in Brave New World and hadn't played for like so long, and now he's like doing that band Glistener, and it's just I'd have to feel like because we had this, it inspired a hey, let's start a band and do something. And because we know we have a place to play shows, we know we have a place that we can like show our art and our music off. And there's so many different other examples of that. But different bands get started as a result, different friendships get made. So like I said, it's all very community based in my opinion.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like what you said about criticism too. Like a lot of artists like people will talk trash about their band online and they take it to heart. It's like, if anything, learn from it. You know what I mean? Like, you were able to create this out of criticism. And you gave people what they wanted, which made it what it is, you know, in such a cool spot. So
it's easy to get offended by it.
Exactly.
In general, like, I mean, no one wants to feel like they're being, reprimanded for just existing, and trying to do the best that they can. But at the same time, you can always look in the mirror and say, did I really give that my all? Did I really think, whatever? And so that was, always like learning experiences for everything.
You can't always think just because you're doing something that it's the right way. You know what I mean? Like, it's how I was with my band. Like, people would be like, there's too much screaming, or there's too much singing or whatever. And then we'd take that into account. Like, how can we make our next song better, or whatever project you're working on. You can't think just because you're doing it, it's perfect. You kind of have to take that kind of criticism and look what you created. It's like it's inspiring, for other people that are in the music industry or doing anything. If you want to be creative, man, you gotta just take criticism.
And I think you channeled your creativity into just putting this place together. I can definitely see that you, like, when I walked in here the first time, I was blown the fuck away. And I know because you know what it was like. There was like one light.
I know.
It was like
no stage lights. PA on the
and
floor.
then like the big speakers, and it was so dark, and like you didn't even know where the plugs were to plug things in, and it was like a hole in the floor, like kind of like giving way, like you'd be stepping, you'd be like, oh Jesus, like right in the middle of playing shit. And man, dude, I walked in here and I was just like, holy shit, it looks like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a pub, like a
brewery. Like,
who are the dudes with the handlebar mustaches? I can't think right now.
Gastropub?
No, but what are they? Hipster. It looks like a hipster fucking brewery, but like catered to musicians. The outside place where you guys still open that up for merch and stuff. Like the outside place. Thank God it was fall when I came. It was like, oh, this is so nice out here.
Yeah, it's a little.
The doors
were
open. But like that was all nice, and I remember what that looked like before, and it was just super, super impressive walking in here.
Yeah. And
I was like, this guy knows. This guy's he knows what the fuck's up. He knows what to do. And so I can't give you, I could sit here and fucking dote on you and tell you fucking amazing all day because I just remember what it was. Yeah. And then it needed to be opened and it needed to come back. And I will always thank you for that, because you know, these are some of the first shows I ever had.
Same.
Putting my shitty first fucking band up here, and you know, doing some, you know, so I appreciate you and everything you've done. So
thank you.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate that.
When you were like making that changeover, and you were like coming out of COVID, and you wanted to open the Handlebar back up, like what was the process like for you? And like, are you the owner of the Handlebar, or do you manage the property for somebody, or like, how does that all work?
Yeah, I manage just the operations of the bar as a whole. So a lot of the all the back end stuff with you know, all the books and everything like that, and then booking, you know, the bands here, and then also managing the staff and employees, and managing you know, I guess the food truck that we have now, and like making sure that like getting that whole operation going and whatnot, so that we can make it a you know, we're not exactly on the strip, we're a little bit more of a destination spot. So we recognized that, and we said, okay, well, let's get food here, because then that way someone can just come here and then that's their whole night. You know, they can be like, I get food, and then I watch a show at the Handlebar, and I drink with my friends, and then I go home happy. You know,
and you found a good food truck.
Oh yeah,
too.
they're amazing.
Wow.
Sauce Boss is one of my favorite.
I'll have to.
And they're
get
great
some
people.
on the way
Yeah,
out.
you should.
Every time I've gotten food here, it's been.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll definitely.
I think I've actually gone back twice. You know, because you're like, oh, I'll just get a little something.
Yeah, sure.
And then you get a little something, you're like, holy shit, I need to get something else, because this is
super good.
And you go home, you're like, oh.
So I guess the process of it all was a lot of what do they call that? I mean, really just brainstorming. But you know, you put all your ideas on like a chalkboard, and you just start, you know, mapping it out, and you're like, yeah, so this goes here, and this goes here, and this goes here. And a lot of it was kind of by, you know, you look around and you see the differences, and you'd say, you know, it was thought out, but some of it was forced in a way. So, for example, the door that was over there, that was the original entrance. And I really hated it anyway, because when you walked in and you paid, you were just like standing like parallel to the band, and it just like felt awkward. You could never walk across the room to the bar, because if you did, you're like walking in the middle of a band set, and that's kind of weird. And so I didn't like that anyway. So we wanted it to be different. So if that had to be the front door, we were like, oh, well then let's put the stage over here. But the reason we couldn't do that is because now we had to be ADA compliant when you do any sort of renovations. So we ended up having the front entrance over there, because then it was wheelchair accessible. And so if you do it there, then the stage stays in its same spot, and you walk in as like, so the bar was originally going to be over here, and then we were going to have these windows, but these and the reason being was that we could serve inside and outside and everything like that, and that would be cool. The problem with that is it's like, where does everything go? You know, like there's no top shelf or anything like that for storage, and so it became very difficult. So that forced it over here, but now it just kind of turns the room's orientation like the way that it, you know, it was probably meant to be, you know, and so it ended up being a little bit better that some of these ideas at first didn't quite shake out, because it ended up giving it the most optimum use of the building, I think.
Yeah, the flow in here is awesome.
Yeah.
I've been to a few shows here, and it's, you know, it's really easy to get by the crowd and go up to the bar and get your drink.
For sure. Because I think, like you were saying last time with the door, you would come in the door, and then of course everybody would stand in the doorway, because everybody, especially if you came in late, because then you had guys in the pit, and then you don't want to get hit. I'm not the get hit in the pit guy. So like then you would stand there, and you're like waiting for your opportunity to get over to the bar. And it was just and then the stage, I think, came out, and it was huge too. You couldn't see around this big ass speaker. And it, you know, you can't really see what's going on. It's so dark, and then
I felt like it was before it was maybe more of a bar than a venue, right? But we kind of forced it as the venue. And it worked because like it was the venue, right? It was the hometown venue and everything like that. But now it's like more focused as a venue, and that helps it to kind of be what it is, I think.
Because then they had pool tables in the back and stuff like that too. Like there was pool tables in the corner.
And people just threw merch on, and they're like, this is the merch table.
It was kind of like, what do you want to be? And like when I came in here, it's focused. the decor was focused around, like, it looked like a venue. It looked like the pool tables are now gone. There's a couple things in the back to kill time, I'm sure, if you open up early and somebody wants to kill time. But you look around and this is a venue.
Yeah.
The tables and everything that you have, you can move them whenever you need to. They're lightweight. Very impressed.
Yeah.
This is going to just be me doting on Robert for like an hour and a half of like.
Yeah. You want to hang out more? You want to be best friends?
I think that, another thing is too is like I started working.
We
so
can't
I started
end this,
booking in
this
Fort Walton,
podcast.
and I'm working with a venue, and it's same kind of concept. Have you been to Downtown Music Hall? Okay, you've seen the layout and everything, and there's just a couple things that like I go into music venues in different places in different cities, and you're like, hey man, like we need to. You're calling it the music hall, and just trying to make things happen and trying to like hone it in as a music venue and trying to get that. But then there's like then you're kind of going against like the pool tables make money.
Yeah.
And that's key. And you're like,
and it brings people in.
Yeah, and you're like, damn it, and you're like, and they're open during the day, so it's like, well, I got a shuffleboard table. It makes money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep, I get it. All right, okay, so it's just working with those things, those different obstacles to try and I just come in here and I'm like, yeah, well, like all of my ideas are like realized, and you're like, yeah, this guy gets it, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. And so,
it's like we struggle a little bit with just like being a bar versus a music venue. I mean, we're open outside of just for shows. So there's some things we have to like figure out, in terms of maybe comfort or some different stuff around the bar that can engage people more to be here when there's not a show. But at the end of the day, it's like we kind of leverage our moments of being open as a bar with, the success we have with the music venue side of things, and we'll build it over time, but at the end of the day, like we just want this to be like the home again for it.
So when did you kind of make the switch in your brain? Like, are you like in your brain now, are you more of do you feel like you're more of a general manager of a bar, or do you feel like you're a musician at this point? Like,
oh yeah, good point. Well, so I still play. I still play music
I know,
and whatnot. But yeah, I get what you're saying completely. Like, what do I identify with? If someone walked me down the road and said, "What do you do?"
Yeah.
And I guess I would say it's like I run a music venue. I would say that. And so, but at the end, like I still play music. I still I keep that very close to me. I want to, at the end of the day, like you do this because you love music and you love playing it, and kind of down the line it kind of gets pushed because there's other obligations, there's other mouths in the music scene to feed and take care of, and that's where I sometimes look out for that a little bit too often and don't focus on that, which is fine. Like I don't I think that's more of like the community side. Like my parents both worked in mental health for like years, and so like their whole philosophy is just like give back. So it's just finding different ways to do that through kind of like their teachings as a kid and whatnot. So
when did you make the switch in your brain? Like was it when you had night moves, or like when did you become like
more of a promoter than
or like when did you like do you have like a main part where you, or like a main thought where you're like, where you realize that like you're in it's a business. It's not like, yes, it's fun. Yes, it's everything, but like this is a business, and I'm running a business now.
Yeah.
Like I'm a businessman now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Do you remember like a good scenario where you just kind of took a step back for a second and went like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I'm running a business here, and I've got to think like a businessman at a lot of turns.
So I guess there's a couple things. I mean, obviously your goal is to kind of, I don't know, I guess for the most part, I don't know if I have, because I'm so focused on just like the community side of it that sometimes I do lose that a little bit, because if I was fully invested in the music, in the business side of it, and I was just like, this makes money, I'd probably book a lot of stuff I didn't want to see.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, you know, like I'm okay with that. I don't do that because I think that there's going to be some nights that we have some stuff I don't want to see that does really well, but then there's going to be a lot of the other stuff that I do where I'm like, you know, we're not going to lose money on this show, but there might not be a lot of people here, but I love the band and I love what they're doing and I don't really care. So I guess I don't know. I guess there like when I was doing night moves, I mean, there were some times where I was just like, why the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
Like I was just like, there was, I mean, I do shows, I like to the point where I wouldn't feel, I mean, if the door made $70 and there was a touring band and the option was I pay the touring band or I pay myself, I would pay the touring band. And I was just like, I don't know, like
how long can I keep this up?
I can't keep doing that, you know? And so there were so many times where that would happen. And that's why I kind of pursued a different path as far as like the Handlebar went. And so I guess to some degree, if I wasn't making stupid decisions like that, I don't know that I would have ended up in this, right? You know, like there's so many different avenues. I could have just kind of kept losing money on something just to keep it open because it was something I felt like was the right thing. But at a certain point, I was just like, this is not a profitable business. This isn't something that's making enough money to stay open. And if I don't change something, I will just burn myself out on it, I think.
Yeah, and then and then the community would lose someone like
you
that wants you to have a place to come to.
Right.
You know? That's.
So I guess that's the switch. Maybe during night moves is where I kind of.
I just remember when we were doing our, not this past EP, but our full album with the band, I realized all of a sudden, like in making that album, that full album, I realized that I was running a business more than I was a guitar player. Like guitar was sometimes third or fourth down the line to everything else that we had going on with the band. And like, and then people would like, oh, did you check this out? Have you done this? Have you like, what you got new? I'm like, dude, I am just trying to get all this stuff paid for and shows booked so that we can pay for stuff. And then talking to this person, talking to a booking agent, talking to this person, talking to all these people. And I'm like, man, I'm running a business. I'm not even like doing what I originally set out to do. I'm like, damn, like it. And I try to like just tell people on this when they watch it, I'm like, the bands and everything, it becomes a business almost like immediately, man. Like you get everything ready to go. You got 30 minutes to play on stage. And then everything else after that just immediately comes a business because you have to
selling merch. And
you have to afford things. Gas in your car, people need new gear, like, you know, people are taking time off work. It has to generate some form of money. Yeah. And it took me till about then to finally realize like, oh shit, I'm running a business. Like I got to get my shit together and like really be on top, like spreadsheets and things like that. You know, it's like, and I'm just a guitar player in a band, you know, and I'm having to.
All I want to do is just show up with my guitar.
I know. I would love to do. I would love to be that person.
It is wild. I mean, for when I first started kind of booking more professional acts and they had a tour manager, in the back of my head, I'm just like, what do? You don't do anything. Like, what does this tour manager do? And then I realized all the stuff that they were doing was just stuff that I was doing for free as the manager of the band. And I'm just like, oh. So like, no one in the band is responsible for getting you to and from a place or making sure when you get paid and organizing your finances and making sure when you run out of merch that you get a refill, and that it's like, that was always my job. Like, that was always just like, that's just what I thought you needed to do as in a band. Like, someone just takes the reins and does it, and everyone kind of reaps the benefits after that. And I just thought that was how it was supposed to happen. And then I start seeing all these tour managers that are like doing all the grunt work for them, and I'm like, oh, so that makes sense now. Like,
they're booking the hotels.
Yeah, they're doing all that kind of stuff.
Talking to the promoters.
It's a lot of work.
Getting all the information in advance that you need for the day, where to park.
Have you ever TM'd or
just on my own stuff? Yeah, just my own bands, pretty much.
Super. I bet you it's super stressful, huh?
I mean, at the time, I didn't realize that it
it's
like
just
was.
just
like it felt like it was just part of what to do. And so now to think about it in reverse, I'm like, I guess like it maybe would have been easier if like all we had to do was just show up and play.
Yeah.
But it was never that. It was like we show up. I got to wake everyone up. You know, I got to make sure that the guitarist that always takes a shower as we're leaving, takes a shower before anyone else, and still somehow does it like right as we're leaving. And then I got to make sure that
they're all mad at you because you woke them up, and it's like, because I want to be up at 8.
Because I want to leave.
Yeah.
I want to leave right now. Like I don't want to.
Because we have a 5-hour trip.
We have a 5-hour drive.
Yeah.
We got to be there.
Like none of us want to do this, man. Yeah.
And they're like, and so then, getting there and then finding the promoter, finding out where to park, and then finding out like hunting them down afterwards and making sure you get a paycheck or whatever, and then hunting whoever down afterwards to figure out where we're staying that night and all that kind of stuff. So again, I thought it was just part of it. And then I realized I'm like, oh, there's like a whole nother role for this. And I think that might be why I've been able to transition like into this, because I'm just so used to like me being the one taking care of bands and doing all this other stuff that like it's just ingrained in me. So like I have the ability to like interface with people. Like there's a level of which like we could hire someone that handles that kind of thing, but like I like it. I like being the person that shakes people's hands like when they first get there and treating them the way that I would want to be treated. And everything. So
I think it means a lot. It's almost like in the military when you're dealing with like somebody that's like enlisted and then you're talking to like an officer. It's like when someone was enlisted and then goes officer, because like once you become officer, you're like in charge, you're like everyone looks up to you. But like when you're just straight officer, like you go in as an officer, like people are like, oh, this guy.
Yeah.
But when you go enlisted and then you become an officer, you know how to treat the enlisted, like, because you've been there. You've seen it.
And all your subordinates usually recognize too that like,
absolutely.
this guy's legit. And it's the same thing with you. Like when I came in, you were very accessible as a general manager of a bar. Like you were here, you're right there, and I'm like, oh, okay. Where like if you go into other
a lot of places you would never see.
Bigger venues in here. I mean, I've never met the person who manages the vinyl that I know of. Maybe I met him.
They blend in sometimes. So
it's
hard.
I'd love to meet him and talk to him too, but or she or whoever. And but like, it's like you're accessible. You're there for it. You're there for the people. Like, so I thought that was cool too. Like, I didn't have to like search out Robert when I came in here to say, hey. It was just like, where's Robert? And, oh, he's right over there. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, man,
that's cool.
So
yeah, and it makes it so like other bands that want to play here, it's like that's the guy you got to talk to right there,
Yeah,
that's
so it's like kind of like a double-edged sword, right? So sometimes like I'll be here and then someone will like be like, oh, you want to do this, and they put me on the spot, and I'm like, can I hear your music and know like who I could pair you with, and instead of just like me making you an empty promise that like I know that this is gonna work out like next week, like I'd love to play here like next week. I'm like, well, hold on, like let me see if we can make this work out.
Send me an email, please.
Like, so there's like and really like I try to be formal about it just so that I'm not like constantly just like I check Instagram and there's a message of someone doing this, and I check Facebook and there's like I try to like have it all centralized just for my personal like how I remember to deal with it, because if someone approaches me on Instagram, 9 times out of 10 I'm probably not at my computer to like remember like, oh, they asked me about this date, then I end up double booking or something like that, or having to make something work. And I haven't had to do that here yet. I've done it at Night Moves a couple times, but I haven't had to do that here yet, thankfully. So I think the system's working, but there's obviously like you never know when you kind of catch someone and you guys feel like I said, shoot me an email, but that seems good, and their interpretation of it is that's good, we're ready to roll with it, and then I never get the email, and then I'm like, I don't have a track record of this. I have nothing to reference this off of. If it happened or not. So
do you get the emails a lot like, my band's looking to book for fall time of 2023?
Every now and then,
shoot me your open dates. And it's like, you want all of my open dates?
It's hard.
Like,
I'm just like,
how about you narrow it down,
please?
Like,
give me like 5 that you could maybe work out, and then I'll see what we can do. It's tough.
You want me to list my whole calendar for you? And then, no, bro. Like, I'm not doing that.
You can just go on the website and see the events.
Dude, I'm just like, or just the random like my band wants to book there, and then it's just a person and just my band, and you're like, cool, bro. Like,
there's no link. Yeah, links are just super important.
What are you looking here? Go ahead. You got the floor. What are you looking for when somebody wants to play the Handlebar?
For the most part, I want to see. I need to hear the music. Like, above anything else, I need to hear what it sounds like, because it doesn't even matter if I like it or not. I just need to know, like, can I make a successful show with this band?
Yeah.
Are there bands around here that I could put this with where it will make sense? Like, honestly, we don't have, like, a lot of ska bands. So if a ska band was to hit me up, if they're really good, I'll be like, this is going to be a little out of genre, but I'm down to make it work. So let's do that. But if something else hits me up where it's like some kind of noise thing where there's no vocals, and I'm like, I don't know anyone that
gypsy jazz or something like that.
I don't know anyone that I know that personally listens to this or knows the band that would come out. But I also don't know any bands that would play it and it would make sense. That's where it gets really difficult. Like, I'm not trying to make it like say that like you have to be a certain genre to play here, but if you don't have anyone to play with, I can only carry it so far. Like, I can only put so many people in the room. It's the local bands that do that, and if you don't have like a sound like that, it's really difficult for me to put you in a position of success. Not only like it's not even about like me. I mean, there's been so many times where I've been like, I'm going to eat the door charge out of the bar tonight, or the sound person's salary out of the bar tonight. I'm going to eat whatever out of this because I want you to be able to continue on. And having liquor and alcohol makes that a lot easier than when I was a dry space at Night Moves. Like, and it was just the revenue made at the door was to pay the bills, like we at least have the bar to be able to give us another stream of that. Yeah. So having that is really important, and at least having some kind of social media link that I can like click and say like, okay, these are other shows that you've played. That gives me an idea of like the type of bands that they play with and the venue sizes. Yeah. And so that's always like helpful for me.
Yeah. Do you get the what was I thinking of? Jesus, I just lost it. I had another question. Go ahead and ask some question while I think about it.
All right. Yeah. You be all right?
Yeah, I'm just thinking I had it and then I lost. Just as I was about to speak, I lost.
Whenever I was dealing with promoters, I always put myself in their shoes. So I'm like, what would I want to see from a band? You know, like my thing, like I learned more in the music industry as I've been doing this, but like a lot of times promoters or like managers, record labels are looking at like how many streams, how many monthly listeners, and that I wasn't so like invested in. I was more like, do they have good music? Because like that's what really matters. Like, do they have a good product to sell? Because then what you're doing here is like you're putting that product in front of these people's fans. Yeah. And now they're going to be fans of that. And now they work together and book bigger shows. And you could sell this place out just by putting the right show together,
Yeah, I really like when like a local band or a regional band, like so let's say a New Orleans band or a Tallahassee or Birmingham or something like that hits me up, because I'll just say, great. Because then I'll put some of like our employees or other bands in the area that I know are active and like to tour, put them on the show and be like, you guys meet and you guys exchange information so that you guys can go play up in Birmingham someday.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That's like my like. There's so many bands like that around here that want to do that and tour and play one-offs in different cities just to mix it up and stuff like that. So
you should be doing that.
By having those connections, it's really important. I always felt like that's like a really cool thing that we can do here, is just to try to find 3 or 4 other venues and say, hey, why don't you play here, and here this weekend, and then next time they come through, why don't you bring one of our bands on one of these shows or something like that?
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Try to make it fun for everyone, and just like get them into a different experience of playing a different venue and seeing how different things are ran. Because when those bands play other places, like, hey, you know what they did over there that was really cool? They did blank, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And my friends just played over in Austin, and they did for some reason, I can't figure it out why, they had an open bar at the show that someone just paid for. And I said, Now, why the hell would someone do that? And I'm like, oh, maybe it's just like a marketing thing to brand a product or something like that. So I was like, what could we do like that here? And I'm like, oh, it's like maybe we can reach out to some of our liquor reps and say, hey, you want to promo anything? Maybe we can give that away at the door. Like we can do like a free shot if you buy a ticket to the show and stuff like that.
Oh,
so we're gonna try stuff like that, and like incentives. little things like that just inspire to go in like a different direction. I think
done that a couple times at Downtown Music Hall.
Cool.
It works out pretty well.
Yeah,
they bring in like 2 or 3
bottles or
very good looking
right.
females.
Yeah,
and they walk around and they they go over and hand out shots and stuff like that. They usually stay about half the night, and it's turned out pretty well.
Yeah,
and it hasn't nothing on the bar. Like it just, I think it
brings people
in. Yeah. I was gonna say I finally remember what I was gonna say.
Good job.
When you were thanks, buddy. When you were talking about like the bands and you needed to hear them, like I've been at shows where you have a mixed genre of show, and then one band will get up there and they start playing and everybody goes out and smokes. And like I've had to talk to a couple bands while booking shows, and I'm like, I'm going to find something for you.
Yeah.
You just have to be patient. Like I'm not pushing you away. I'm just saying I need to find something where it's going to work to your benefit. Like, cause I would hate to put you up there on stage.
That's how I feel.
Like that would kill me, dude.
It's
like you're coming in, you just put in all this work. And even if I don't like your music, like I'll still give you a shot. It's just I got to have the right environment for you to succeed, because I want you to succeed as well.
Yeah. It's less about our perception. It's more about like how I feel about it personally, like watching it happen, because I'm like, man,
it's rough when everybody goes outside to smoke and you're like, ooh, and they play the whole set.
Having shorter shows helps, like a designated window, is really important. I think like if you stick to like an 8 to 11, that's not enough time to burn out. Every band sticks to about 30 minutes. It's not enough time to burn out. Like when you start creeping into some of these other things, like where you're like, okay, this band's been playing for an hour and like they've been playing to no one at this point. Like that's where you're like, okay, so then by setting guidelines and doing that, that's the type of way that you can kind of at least get some interest in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Have you thought about doing comedy up here?
We did Whitmer Thomas here. And it was an interesting thing. He did music also. So he had like I think he has an album. So he would do a song, and then his band would like go to the side room over here, and then he would do like a stand-up number for about 10 minutes, and then they'd come back up and they do that. That lasted for like an hour plus or something like that. It was really great. I mean, I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. So there's a couple things with comedy and with some singer-songwriter stuff that I've noticed, and I think those specifically have to be, you are there for that event, or else it doesn't work. Because if you're here for the bar and you're talking over that, people are gonna fucking kill you. And so it has to almost like. You almost have to make it so that it is like an exclusive environment for that. I'm totally down to do like a comedy thing. It just would have to be like, I think it would have to be either an understood, I'm not going to like shush the crowd for you. So you have to pretty much be good enough that we're like everyone will be quiet and listen to you. So that's the line that you kind of have to draw with that. I don't know what it is. I don't really have like a taste for
I wish I knew.
I just noticed it looks like a pretty good setup.
Yeah, no, it'd be great.
The stage is like the right height.
If we were to pull like all like these tables out and bring in like seated chairs and you do row by row, you'd probably fit like 100 people in here. Yeah. For the right artist, I think it'd be great.
Yeah, no, that would be cool.
Yeah.
It'd be like like what you're doing for bands. It'd be a good like jump.
Yeah, exactly.
For like starting off comedian,
like the person that obviously isn't gonna sell out vinyl or the sell out Singer Theater. Like it'd be the person that's living in their car. That's like I'm that's funny and they can do stuff like that.
What's the cap in here?
The cap in here.
If you moved everything out.
If we moved literally everything out, I mean we've probably fit somewhere around 250, 300 in here. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's where we feel comfortable. I mean, we only have 4 bathrooms, so it's like you can kind of only do more than that if you you'd be sacrificing people's comfort at that point. Yeah. I mean, even just spatially, but like also like to be able to use the bathroom.
Yeah, they have a line out the door.
Yeah,
or something.
So that's just in here, right? Like in here, in
and then every now and then we can
open
spill into that.
Yeah, like if you open up the doors, and let's say you had somebody huge that you could fill this motherfucker up.
Yeah.
And you opened up those windows, and it was a fall show.
Yeah,
or
fall.
Winter show.
It had to be a good temperature.
Winter show. How many people do you think you
people are dying?
I think that fits probably another 50 or so.
Does that count against your capacity?
It kind of does. Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. The fire code.
Yeah,
you get into all that. Yeah. All the business stuff that
you
don't think about when you're.
Just try not to. Sometimes I'm like, it doesn't feel right. Like, like I said, I grew up in punk and hardcore and stuff like that, and so like a lot of this stuff doesn't like really resound to me as far as like rules and but you have to follow them. They're part of it. It's just like I as a person, I just never really I guess like to be like a rule fault. I just always was getting into trouble, even at like church and stuff like that. Would always be sent to the dean or whatever, and it was always like really light trouble, just like talking too much or whatever that type of thing. But I don't necessarily like to do so. Like doing this and getting to do things like all our own way is like really exciting to me and makes it a lot better. Makes it feel again less like work.
Yeah.
So when you were setting this place up, were you like, what was the time after, like when you first got involved with this place? How much time did you have before you like had your first actual show here?
Oh man, a long time.
Yeah, I figured.
So our first conversation here was January 1st, 2020.
Maybe, oh wow.
Yeah, so that was our first conversation here when I met the owners, Chris and Kathy. I stayed in touch. I probably messaged her, emailed Kathy, the owner, every month, every 2 months, something like that during COVID, just being like, hey, what's up? Like, how are you feeling? And she still didn't really exactly know how she wanted to do it. And then sometime around then, maybe like August or later, she was just like, I want you to work with us and do this, and I want to offer you a job and do this. And I was like, great. That might have actually been even another year after that. So I think everything pretty much got started, I want to say maybe June to August of 2021.
Oh, wow.
And then, so literally like an entire year went by until like.
So how were you getting by during that year?
I had another job at that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I worked in sales for a while. I did like sunscreen sales. So I was doing that, and it was actually great. Like, I mean, for the most part, I could have probably, like, because it was only, like, during the season, I could work pretty hard during the season, and then I had, like, the rest of the year mostly off. But I'm kind of glad, at the end of the day that, like, that subsided. It was just, it never really felt like I was working for myself. It felt like I was working for someone else and not really building,
and you were, like
what
super passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, so I was doing that, and then for a little bit, like, I never knew when to quit. I just really was like, I don't know, like, when this day is going to come, because, like, the day could come in, like, I think at this point, it was March, and I'm like, I need to decide if I'm going to, like, do this sales job or not. And then I was like, I'll give it another month and see. Still weren't open. Give it another month and see. Still weren't open. Give it another month. And then by that point, we're in July. And I'm like,
I need something.
Yeah, it's like, I need to know, like, pretty soon. And then by July, I kind of knew, like, okay, we're going to be open for sure in August. There was so many setbacks as far as everything goes. It was just like, lag times for deliveries for furniture, construction and everything like that.
And everything was slowed due to COVID.
Yeah.
Everything.
Oh, yeah, everything was behind. And so, like I said, probably right around then, I was just like, okay, so then let's see, like how much my involvement is like with it after, because we had a bar manager and me, and I, we'll kind of make a decision for going into next year if we want to like do both at the same time. And so ended up just kind of not really even getting the opportunity to even think about that, because it's, this is a consuming thing, but if I don't put it in, we don't reap the results of it. Like if if I was just like casually doing this, like we wouldn't be here. Like if I was like doing this, like treating it truly like I want like a garden, right? You know, if you kind of half-ass your garden and you only pull out some of the weeds and you do this and you don't take care of it, like you're just gonna have like, you know, might as well have not done it. So then now you have like, you know, you spend the time, you do it every day and do what you need to do to make it work, and that's how you start actually seeing the results.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you have to go through some kind of like, I'm sure you sacrifice a lot for this place too, definitely. Which is like, I mean, if you really want to do something, you kind of have to just like jump in full force, forget all the other bullshit and just do it.
I think about that sometimes.
Because like, sorry to cut you off, but like before this, like, I'm sure you were like envisioning what, like right now where you are, you're like, holy fuck, I brought it to the, I'm sure there's more you want to do,
absolutely.
And you can keep growing, but like when you started, you were like, I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I know. Seriously. I mean, to this day, I'm like, man, I get surprised. I'm like, man, we've kind of made it this far. I mean, I have two employees that are only here, and because they're able to make all their ends meet just working here. And I think that is like the coolest thing ever, because before I was just like, I'm not even going to be able to hire a sound person because I'm going to have to learn how to do it myself, because if I hire someone else to do it, that means I can't pay rent. That means I can't pay the band. So I'm just going to learn how to do it myself, and then I'll just, you know, make, you know, hopefully the equity comes in the community building and somewhere down the road of, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears you kind of put into it. And you know, I was a little worried at first, like, you know, the time that I was spending here and everything. And then I thought about, like, the last job that I had, and I was like, okay, so what did I do on the weekends at that job? I went to shows. You know, like, I went to shows. I hung out with my friends. Or I sat at home and did nothing and felt like a piece of shit about it. I'm just like, I was so burnt out from the week, and then I finally got to the weekend. I'm just like, I'm just gonna sit at home and like gamble on basketball. Like I just
and that's not what you want to do.
And
you
don't want to
do that.
So then I would do that, and I would say, and now I look back at it now, and I'm like, well, so now I'm here on the weekends enjoying time being here, and then I'm surrounded by like my friends who I've made over the years here, and then at the very least, if none of my friends come and I'm just kind of like here by myself, I get to look around and just like be like, wow, look, I've like given jobs to like these people who are here. I gave these bands like a platform to play on. I've done all these other things that, you know, I didn't think would be possible with Night Moves or anything like that I would have never done at the sales job that I was doing that was like sucking my soul away, you know? And so to be able to see that and say, wow, if I didn't have like Chris and Kathy's like utmost like support to do things like this, and to have like the staff behind me that like also shares a similar vision and shares like what we're trying to do here, this is just not possible. And we all can like just, you know, we kick back and like literally laugh at it. We're like, this is like one of the like a moment in time we can look back on when we're 50 whatever years old and say, that was what we did to live and like actually like make a living on. And during this moment in time, it's really cool.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, you watch all those like videos and like inspirational videos of people that like start a business and never know like what they can like build up to, but it's always just having like a core group of people that you believe in you and share the same vision and all that, where you become successful, you know. So
and you realize that like to do anything that you're passionate in or you want to do for yourself, it's going to require sacrifice. Like how many hours a week do you think you spend in this place?
It depends. I mean, I think maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I might have worked 8 hours because I was just like, I was just so like burnt out from the week prior. Yeah. But then there's times where I'm here 10, 12 hours a day, and I could go home and just choose not to, because you know, I could find anything to do at any given time here, you know.
And it doesn't seem
like the more time you're around, you're like, I gotta do that, I gotta do this.
And it doesn't seem like you have to, like it's something you have to do. It's something you want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Same thing with like my band. I'll go home and sit behind the computer and send off emails all day or do whatever. We got to take a break for a sec.
I don't think so. I think we're good. Maybe.
we're almost done. Yeah. We're like at an hour.
What's one thing? Okay, if for some kid out there that watches this, or some young person, how old are you, Robert?
32.
So you're 32. Mm-hmm. Cool. Right on. And so for some 18-year-old kid just getting out of high school, and he like thinks he's probably played in a couple bands, or maybe wants to do the same thing you're doing. What's the best thing, which you've probably already gone over because you've talked about it, I think. And what's the worst thing about being a bar owner or a general manager for a bar that probably people don't think about? Like, what's something that like getting into this that you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
okay.
I gotta deal with that.
Yeah, sure. I'd say like the best thing maybe for them to get involved with it is networking. I think going to shows and meeting people and trying to like establish some connections early on is the real way to do it. You can't submerge yourself unintentionally. Like you have to really just not unintentionally. You just can't you don't want to just take yourself and just plant yourself into somewhere without them really feeling like you were part of it. You can't force that type of thing. So that would be like probably number one. I'd say the worst thing about it is some of the denial part, right? Like having to, tell someone's like, hey, we can't do this, because at the end of the day, I want to do that for everyone. Yeah. It's like my biggest goal is to like be it so that we can do it for everyone and make everyone money and everyone happy, but it's sometimes just not always possible.
Yeah, it's so hard to say no sometimes. You're like, I'm a yes man too. Yeah. I'm like, I want to make this work.
And no for the right reasons.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like I've found that's it. Yeah, denying somebody something.
Like even if you literally don't have the date, it's just I straight up don't have the date. I can't help you. There's nothing I can do about it. Like even if I wanted to, that's hard sometimes. And then like the ultimate like, hey, I can't really tell what's going on from these recordings, so I don't know the right pairing for you. So I'll pass on this, but maybe keep me in the loop whenever you feel ready. Those are the type of the conversations that are hard.
I even feel horrible talking to other booking agents because I know they're trying to get their bands fed, and everybody's trying to make money, and I get it, and having to tell them like, for certain bands, I'm like, this is not a $1,500.
It's not a reasonable offer.
This is not a $1,500 tour package.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like, as much as I want to bring you in here, I was like, if we keep doing that, that's one thing that I've run into is like people saying, like, well, this place in Orlando will pay the band $75 a piece, and I'm like,
it's crazy.
I'm like,
that's Orlando.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's Orlando with millions of people.
Yeah.
And a tourist destination.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Fort Walton Beach, Florida. I was like, you're not even talking Pensacola, which you guys have.
Yeah.
You can pull from Mobile. You have Pace. You have like, we're talking Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And I was like, I've had to tell people like just straight up, I'm like, so you want $75. I was like, so you're guaranteeing me that you're going to bring 7.5 people to my show that I'm putting together for you.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, no. And I'm like, well, then why would I guarantee you? And like, I'm like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I really want to make this happen, but you got to kind of work within the confines of like,
exactly.
And I work for somebody.
Yeah.
Like it's his money.
Yeah.
It's not my money. I mean, I could take the hit. Like if I was wanting to book a show, I'm like, fuck, all right, I'm booking the show. Whatever happens, and I'm going to take care of it. But like when I'm dealing with somebody else's stuff, I'm like,
it is a little bit more challenging.
And I'm like, dude, I want to book you here, but
yeah.
How was that starting up? Like with your relationship with the owners, like did they 100% just do what you want to do?
I think there was a learning curve, right? There was a transparency. It was just like, hey, I'm going to do it this way. And if you feel like it's not working, we'll talk about it. And so just every month, I mean, we talk all the time. Like I talk with the owners like several times a week. We get together, like the owner, Chris, was just in here with me a second ago. Like we talked financials and did all that. And just, like I said, we keep the everything transparent with it. But like you said, Justin, it is really hard to, when you do have big cities that are competing offers. And so I asked a I had a friend that was a TM, and I was just like, this is a really good opportunity for me to like get an idea. And I said, hey, can you give me an idea of like where our offer stands and what your payout is compared to some of the other cities? And he goes, what was it? And I told him, and he goes, oh, you guys are like right around the middle to lower side. And I'm like, so they accept stuff higher and lower than what we do? And I was like, how does that work? And he goes, well, every city's different. But, you know, like in New York, we might be getting somewhere around twice that. And in, I can't remember what city he said, some kind of small, maybe New Orleans or Baton Rouge. It's like in Baton Rouge, we might be getting a little bit lower than that, but we might be getting a higher back-end percentage of it. Yeah. And so it's really all just like a matter of like the structure of the deal and everything. And so, like you said, I kind of like the game a little bit with the booking agents. There's some level of it where I don't, like where I ask them and they're like, give me an offer. It's like, I have nothing to base this on. So if I just shoot you something, you can't be pissed at me for it.
Yeah.
But
I'm not trying to lowball you or high.
Sometimes they lead with it and I'm like, you're ridiculous. There's no way that's going to make that much money here. It's like, what, you want me to do a $20 ticket for this band? I was like, dude, that makes no sense.
Yeah. In this area.
And so there's like a level of that where I'm like, and so you just try to develop the relationships with them and try to get the right, you know.
And you're never getting a Friday or a Saturday.
Usually not. Usually not.
Like I'm sure you've run into it too. It's like, it's like I could probably do this on a Friday or Saturday, or at least give you like a portion and then a really good back end after we get expenses
paid. I always lead with that. It's like I always lead with the day of the week. I'm like, it's this day.
Yeah.
It's traditionally like a slower day for us, so I can probably do this. And there's like it's like when you buy a house or whatever, a shirt on eBay or whatever. It's like if the price isn't worth it to you, don't be afraid to let it walk. And that's that's the hardest thing to do sometimes. It's like, I really love this fucking band. Like there's been a couple bands where I've like outbid myself on it because I just really wanted to see them, and it just was what it was. And so
you're like, come here, I'll pay the extra money
a little bit, but then there's some where you're like, you know, I don't really care for this, but I'll give it to you for this. And then it ends up being one of the best shows you get because you're like, what? Because it was just a favorable deal. Yeah. So sometimes you can like outbid yourself on some stuff like that.
I remember when I started, I wanted to have, because, you know, at the music hall, I was like, okay, it's a music hall. Then we should have music every night.
Sure, yeah.
Like that's that was my thought process. So I'm like trying to book all these bands and I'm like, is this normally what's like all these offers that are like, there's people wanting $5,000, and I'm like, $5,000?
Yeah.
Like, dude, I just went from a band that wanted, you know,
150.
And you're like, I want $5,000, 2 runners, stage hand, green room, a hotel stay, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I'm like, and then it's not my money, and I'm having to go between, you know, I'm kind of the go-between liaison, basically.
Yeah.
And it's man, it's super stressful, but it's super awesome when you have a super successful show and you're just sitting back and you're like, you know, like Ian, the owner at Downtown Music Hall, is just like grinning ear to ear.
Yeah.
He's like, want some free Blantons, bro? And I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah, sure.
It's a fucking, you know, and it's a great night. Everybody's clinking. And that's what kind of keeps me going. It's just that next, you start chasing the white rabbit type of, you know, just like trying to get that next show, that fix, man, because it's super cool. When
it's like, and then when you sell it to, you know, your break even, and then every person you see walk through the door, you're just like, yes. It's great because and then what that does is it gives you the ability to maybe pursue something that might be out of budget for the next time because you don't feel comfortable. Like I would have never booked municipal waste at the old Handlebar because I would have just been like, I would have saw the guarantee and I would have been like, I can't do that in the room. And so this time we do it, and it's a sellout, and it's just like if I didn't have that confidence from being able to win with previous shows, it would have just never worked out in our favor or anything. So
what's next for the Handlebar? What is the next big thing that you're moving towards?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, one thing that we really want to do is we'd love to somehow be able to expand the property in some direction or another. We've done like a little bit of that with like the street blockages when we do like the festivals and everything like that. So finding some way to get the city like on our side with that so that we can do more events like that, I think would be great. Because it's a expense out of pocket, you know, to have to pay for, you know, barricades, police on site, stage. So if there was some level of where we can, you know, communicate with the city where they'd be down for that, that'd be great. If there was some level at which we can communicate with using, you know, renting some property nearby when we have an overflow for a show, that'd be great. Or for a green room or anything like that, you know, that would be ideal. The number one thing that we're really working on, and like me personally, is there is a festival called Fufu Fest, which happens every year in November. It's focused around the arts festival. And that is a city-funded festival to generate tourism into Pensacola in the off-season using arts, culture, and entertainment. Music is obviously a great form of that. And so this year I kept Night Moves open as a, you know, again, as the philosophy and, you know, maybe not necessarily the brick and mortar, but Night Moves as a whole is still a nonprofit. So I applied this year using that, and I wrote a grant asking them to fund my vision to do a music festival out at Maritime Park, and they agreed to it. And so we're going to do one there in November with Handlebar being like a huge sponsor of the event and, you know, integrated with it. So we'll probably do some after shows, some pre-shows using Handlebar, have the Handlebar staff like work it in terms of like the bar and everything like that, and then we'll use, you know, the funds to bring in like really big bands and try to do like a really cool single day event out there. So
yeah, have some like big headliners or something like that to draw the people in. Yeah, that's awesome. That's wicked cool, dude.
Have you thought about enclosing the porch out there?
That would be cool, I think. I never even really thought about that.
Opening it.
It would be kind of nice to do that, I think, to some degree, because then, you know, then now it's like that does become like a separate area that doesn't get impacted by rain or anything like that. Yeah. So there's that, and then like, you know, more seating around the bar to kind of give it more of like a bar feel sometimes, like when we don't have shows. I think there's a lot of times where I look at it and I'm like, there's a lot of pressure on shows to do well. So it's like if we have a Friday show that doesn't necessarily hit, it's like we can't necessarily make that up on our Thursday or our Sunday because those are just slower days, and because we don't really have like a inviting bar situation or whatever. So, you know, there is a lot of weight on that. So by having the food truck and by having, you know, a lot more, you know, offerings and seatings, I think that'll help too.
Yeah. Right on.
Dude, I've learned a lot so far.
Yeah. So what, I guess we can kind of start wrapping it up, but like, so what do you got going on, other than the Handlebar? Anything you want to shout out, like your band? I know you just said Night Moves with that sort of thing. Anything else you want to shout out?
I play guitar and do vocals in a band called Glazed Eyes. It's like an alternative indie emo band. It's like Goo Goo Dolls meets Jimmy Eat World and some modern day, like, I don't know, Moose Blood or stuff like. So it's like a combo of that kind of stuff. We have an album coming out hopefully by the end of the year. I think we're going to drop like a promo pretty soon. We're working all the details out with that. I play in a hardcore band called Burning Strong, and that just put out an LP called Here Until the End. So that would be something to check out. I play with my friend Starlin, who does sound here. I play bass with his band, and we're called just Starlin, and put out an album called Too Far Up. I think January was the release, or I can't remember when the release show was at this point. Everything feels like a blur. And then, just like other miscellaneous stuff here and there, like we'll fill in. Like there's a lot of bands that we did in the past that like when the right show comes around, we'll do a show and whatnot and everything. So.
And all those can be found like on Instagram and
stuff?
Instagram, I'll put all those in either in the, you know, the description or on maybe on the screen somewhere.
Yeah. Feel free to like hit me up after, and I can send you links of everything like that. So, other than that, just really grateful to be in the position that I'm in. Honestly, I just think about it all the time. Like, I talk to my wife about it and my family. I'm just like, I don't, like, I really can't, like, comprehend, like, how life could have shaped out this way, you know, to not only, number one, like, to be a person that hates working for other people, to end up kind of doing this thing for us and for our music scene and everything like that is really cool. And then to not really feel like it's work sometimes is also really cool, and something that I was at one point dipping my own life into, and now like I do it, but like we're able to like make a living off of it is really great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So one last thing, if I'm a band and I want to play at the Handlebar, where do I go to?
So there's a
put in for a show.
Yeah, there's a form on our website that's a really good way to do it. But otherwise, there is a email booking at thehandlebar850.com. If you just send, Spotify link, Instagram, brief description of what you sound like, date that you're interested in playing,
maybe some similar bands.
Bands is like really helpful too, because like sometimes like I have a couple emails where they're unopened right now because I'm like, I need to listen to this band so I know. But if I knew what it sounded like ahead of time, I'd be like, okay, great. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. There's been bands that have been like, we sound like this, and they come in here, I'm like, you sounded nothing like that, but it worked for the show. We were able to pull it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all stuff that would be really helpful for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks
nice
for having us, for hosting us,
yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll shout out the Handlebar.
Yeah.
Send all the links out and stuff. So thank you so much,
Cool.
man.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Sauce Box Burger Co. Located right outside the Handlebar on Carolina Street, Pensacola.
Are you here every day?
Every day, 11 to 11.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have a good day.
Watching your time.